All right. Will the Fairfield County Council meeting please come to order on Monday, February the 23rd. It is now, I can't even tell what time it is, 7:36. Thank you. Appreciate y'all's delay. The service actually lasted a little bit longer, and we need to just stay there for the presentation and everything. So we will try to make this as brief tonight as we possibly can and go forward. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for your patience and your ability to adjust to our timetable. First is the approval of the agenda. All in favor? Okay.
Madam Chair, under my report, would you add one item, a weather update, please?
Okay. With the amendment, do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Likewise. Okay, next we have invocation by Mr. Roof.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for everyone here tonight. Thank you for the presentation that we just saw tonight for Sheriff Herman Young. What a great man he is and well-deserved award. Lord, bless us as we meet tonight, and that we do everything we do and say be according to your will. Be with us as we travel on our way to our respective homes. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, before you've had minutes for the work session January 29 and the regular meeting February 9. Do I have a motion for approval?
Madam Chair.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed likewise. I've been advised that Mr. Randy Bright, who is here for public presentations, has had some emergency and cannot be here tonight. So we will send that back through the presentation committee unless there's something that council would like to say about that, and then come up with another time for his presentation that will work in our schedule. First public comment is...
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair and members of council, we have Mr. Jeff Schaefer to speak on the sidewalk.
Good evening, council members and fellow Fairfieldians. My name is Jeff Schaefer. I reside in District 4. The town of Jenkinsville is in my district. In the county of Fairfield, if the county of Fairfield was not worthy enough to remain the county for the town of Jenkinsville and its jurisdiction, why on earth would we allow the mayor to come and ask for money from a county that he wants nothing to do with? And if it's not him, I don't want to make this sound personal, then it's his constituents. I'm asking this council to consider the financial request made by the mayor very carefully. I want you to consider who you are giving this money to and how it will be handled and followed. This is the same mayor and chairman of Jenkins Waterville Company, the same company that could not account or reconcile its checkbook for 5 or 6 years in a row. Never mind thousands and thousands of dollars unaccounted for. That's not who I want to be handling my money over to, would you? The same attitude and message relates to new business. They are not welcome in Jenkinsville, unless it benefits someone. Just ask Christ Central, the campgrounds, and others who want to operate in the town. Think for a minute. There are probably twice as many people in this audience tonight as there are in the entire town of Jenkinsville. This is the same town that outright refuses to join up with other municipalities and provide water or make the entire county a better place to live. CTC money is to be directed to road work. It does not promote a direction towards concrete sidewalks that start from nowhere, go nowhere, and are in the middle of nowhere. And let me add that if you drive down 215, there are exactly 10 homes that sit on the sidewalk. Do you actually think that that's justification for the request? There are roads in this county that are truly in need of repair for safety of many. The majority still rules in this world, and with 48 or 60 people in the kingdom, this request for assistance should be as significant as a flea on an elephant. Thank you for your time.
Mr. D. Melton, sidewalk.
Good evening, council, and those that came to the meeting here tonight. Speaking on the sidewalk, again, myself, I may repeat a few things Mr. Schaefer had to say, but the mayor of Jenkinsville, Mr. Gignard, has come and asked the county for some additional funds to put in sidewalks. I've gotten to know the mayor through the water board. He's also the chairman of the water board in Jenkinsville. There, I've come to realize he is totally against growth in that area. Not only does it put a damper on Jenkinsville, but it shows the true colors of Fairfield County just from that one little section. He tells us when he's at the board that the water there is for residents only. Therefore, how do you bring in industry, businesses, and that sort of thing? I've applied for additional campsites in the area. He's refused to grant us a letter to move forward to bring in other people into the community. Also, he turned down Christ Central Church, has turned us down. So how do we get Jenkinsville to grow? It's not just Jenkinsville. This is a direct comparison to all of Fairfield County. So once you take a hard look at that, why do we need a sidewalk if we can't bring a business into Jenkinsville? We're going to build a parking lot on each end of the sidewalk so you can get to the sidewalk and walk on it. How do you get to this sidewalk? How do you walk on it? You can't just pull up and park your car to business. There are no businesses there. Also, getting to know him, I want to invite each and every one of you, all members of council here, to one of the board members, to the board meetings out there and see how the board operates. It's really an eye-opening experience to see how the water board operates out there. Abuse of power is being done. Elections were illegally held. Members of the board were taking more than one vote when their bylaws completely and directly state that only one person can have one vote and one membership. They refused to answer any questions when you ask them why they were voting more than once. All this takes place, and a lot of people don't see it and realize it. But this gentleman is asking for money to go build sidewalks. I've got to know him. I'm not sure if he's the perfect person to do that. Sidewalks could be a great thing in the right time and the right place. Just think about that. And I think that'll do it for now. Thank you.
That concludes segment number 1. You're on number 2, Mr. Bell. Or, I'm sorry, let me see. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bell. You're on number 1. I'm so sorry. Fire service. Number 2 as well.
The council, I'm Chairman Robinson. As I begin, I want to thank Ms. Robinson for getting Mr. Anderson to come to the Southeastern Volunteer Fire Department to look at the condition of the fire department. When we looked at it, Mr. Anderson brought the manager that works on the building manager and all of that. But when they looked at the fire department, one of the things they thought that the fire department was deplorable. Mold and mildew is throughout the building, which in itself is hazardous. Leaks throughout the building, bad fixtures are broken, heating is very poor to none, no meeting or training room, potholes in the yard while others had their parking lot paved. The Southeastern Volunteer Fire Department did not have their fire department paved. So we believe now it's time for the county to build the Southeastern Volunteer Fire Department a new fire department. And that's what we humbly ask you all to do. And we ask that it might be considered for next year's budget. Thank you.
And so that ends segment number 1.
All right, we have no public hearings tonight. We have Next is the second reading of ordinance 648. Would you post that, please, ma'am?
Ma'am. Ordinance number 648, authorizing an amendment to the master agreement governing the I-77 Corridor Regional Industrial Park by and between Richland County, South Carolina, and Fairfield County, South Carolina, to expand the boundaries of the park to include certain real property located in Richland County, 3130 Bluff Road, LLC, and other related matters.
Comment on that, Mr. Pope?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Council. Good evening. Good evening, citizens of Fairfield. This ordinance, anytime when the multi-county park, which is a designation agreement between Richland and Fairfield County, when new businesses enter into those, we have to amend the multi-park agreement. That is and has been very beneficial to Fairfield County because, of course, we receive a percentage of those dollars that go into the multi-county park. So this is because of a business actually going into the Richland County side of the agreement, of course, and when that happens, we have to expand to include them in the agreement. So that's all what this is, but each and every time we do that, or when a new business comes in, or when one comes in Fairfield, the agreement has to be amended.
And I missed it, I'm sorry, because Mr. Clerk handed me something. But did you also tell them we got a percentage of tax money every time? All right, great. Any discussion? Do we have a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of second reading for ordinance 648, aye? Aye. Opposed likewise? We have no board and commission minutes or appointments. Okay, old business. A is funding request for World War II Memorial Monument. Mr. Pope?
Madam Chair and Council, this is an item, go to my sheet here. This is an item that the County Council had previously voted on. This was back in 2014 when Mr. Hazlitt came before the council requesting funds. The county pretty much agreed to commit to $10,000 toward the World War II Memorial Project, contingent upon education and also the raising of funds in that order. Also, there were discussions at that time with whether or not the town of Winsboro would participate in this request. I had sent out to you previously the documentation from Mr. Hazlitt that outlines the bank account for the World War II Memorial, and you had the amount of monies that were, or the amount of funds that had been collected thus far. Also, as a part of that, you received a copy of a check from the town of Winsboro. I also had a council member to ask about, was there an official 501c3 group that actually that this initiative was a part of? And according to Mr. Hazlitt, this is actually an initiative from a group of citizens that would like to move forward with the memorial. And so we have that documentation of what the council had asked for and requested. And so unless there are further questions, the staff, we have provided, we have that allocation if the council moves forward with the approval of $10,000.
Discussion or motion, then we'll discuss it.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Madam Chair, my only concern is, I think it's certainly a worthwhile project. I think initially I voted for it when it happened in 2004 to 14. I just want to make council aware that we did have some grants when each council member got a certain amount of funds to help their constituencies, that we had to follow some very strict procedures in terms of 501c3s and all that, tax numbers and all that. We'll be setting the precedence here if we move to do this. I just want to make you conscious of that. And if any group can come and ask for $10,000 taxpayer money, other groups can without any stipulation. So whatever the pleasure of the council is, I certainly support it, but I just want to be aware that when we do things like this, that we are setting the precedent.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Could we
Ms.
ask
Kenley.
Mr. Pope, what his opinion on that as far as a concern there, please?
My opinion of,
If we do this and as such open a can of worms for other folks who come, that it's not a 501(c)(3).
Kenley, I think we can also ask the attorney
That's fine, but I want to get.
through Mr. Pope.
well, to speak specifically to the, I guess, the request on the project, I guess it's my professional opinion that one of the things that we could do, of course, I think it's always best if you do have an official organization for documentation purposes, but as far as the staff goes, I think we can work with the group to make sure that we know, we can report back to council what the total cost of the project is, get that documentation and report back to the council that information. It appeared just to me from the initial presentation, and I know through our Department of Veteran Affairs, that there are a lot of veterans who served in Fairfield County, and it seemed like there was certainly broad community support for this. So if I guess the request for me is, you know, on the appropriation, I think it's certainly worthwhile as a community project, and certainly from a staff standpoint, we will make sure that those monies, when we give that check, that is spent accordingly to that. So that would be my opinion on that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to tell Mr. Haslett, I think it's a wonderful job you've done, and to do that, to recognize, because as you said, we already have World War I and Vietnam, so this is good and overdue. And I've heard a lot of buzz around it in the community. People are excited about working on it, and I just think it's a great thing that you're doing, and I appreciate the work you've done on that. Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to ask if there were, I wasn't on council at the time, of course, that this was first discussed. Were there any questions raised at that time about whether this was a registered nonprofit organization? There were no questions about that?
No.
Well, that being the case, I think it's, this certainly is going to get my support, because Mr. Haslett and his group came before council and they asked. Council gave them stipulations to go meet, and then they went and met those stipulations. So I appreciate that, and I think we should approve it.
Madam Chair,
Marshall?
I don't have any objection. I certainly approve of it. It's a worthwhile effort, and to be able to go out there and even raise that amount of funds. I'm just saying that for protocol, when we set this up for the council, that we be aware of what we're doing. I'm not opposing or anything. I'm making council aware of what we're doing here. So don't make it sound like I'm opposed to this great effort to honor Second World War veterans in this county or throughout this world. But it's worthwhile, and I supported it initially, but I'm just making the protocol of how we function up here. That's all.
I know there also is a move underway to also earn and raise additional funding out there for this project. I've also, I don't know if Mr. Pope's been able to confirm this yet, but I had heard that the town had some conditions. Those being, have you heard from
Well,
Mr. Wood?
I spoke with Mr. Haslett about that. There was, I think, just generally speaking, just to make a long story short, I think there may have been some discussion as to where the monument was going.
Right.
And I think they've agreed to that, but that was the only, those were some of the concerns that were mentioned. They've, and he informed me, I guess there was some discussion about, I guess, whether it's going to have an eagle on top of it or not. I think an eagle is going on the top of it now, isn't that correct? So,
Madam Chairman, I'd like to certainly share with you what our final conclusion was.
One second. Well, what I had heard in regard is where it would be located so that it would not interfere with their overall plan. Is
Right.
that what you've heard? Would council have a problem having some comments from Mr. Haslett at this time?
well,
Okay, Mr. Haslett.
Thank you, council. appreciate you giving me an opportunity to
Hold on one
talk.
second. This is to answer questions that are unanswered in regard to something we're doing right now. So this is at our request to answer questions on a funding issue. That's it.
Okay. The only thing that the town put me through up there was they have the monument is going to be up at Mount Zion, and they have a number of monuments up there now, Vietnam, World War II, Confederate monument, and a couple others. They wanted to put the monument in line with the World War I monument. When we first did the proposal, they had told us our proposal was in the drawing, the monument was going to be right in the middle of the Mount Zion Park. It lines up with the two big monuments. So it will be right in the middle of the park. I'm planning reenactors coming into town on May 25th. I am feeding the council, your council, and the Winsboro Town Council, and concerned citizens. We have about 12 to 15 veterans, World War II veterans, that are still living in this county. And I just want to briefly tell you what this monument is going to say. It's not going to be long, Madam Chair, if you let me tell you that, okay? World War II monument, 1939 to 1945, in memory and honor of all Fairfield County men and women who served and our 29 young citizens that made the ultimate sacrifice. It's been 70 years, folks. I had overwhelming support. I've sold almost 200 bricks at $100 to $150, $125 a piece. People have come from everywhere. You don't have to be a veteran to buy a brick. So if any of you here, you councilmen, I'd love to put y'all's names are already going to be on a brick, a master brick. Every one of you council members will be on a brick. So, and in the back part of the monument, we have two sides to it. It'll say World War II, 1939 to 1945. U.S. enters the war after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. 16.1 million people served during World War II, the most we've ever had in the military. The war involved more than 61 countries, most widespread and deadliest of all wars. Over 6 continents and 60 million deaths. If you don't think this was a war worldwide, U.S. lost over 400,000 citizens in World War II. Fairfield County had 1,574 people served in World War II. From this county, 1,574 people. Fairfield County lost 39, were killed in action, a total of 42. 1945, Japan and Germany surrendered in 1945. And I appreciate y'all's support, appreciate the town, and we look forward to honoring these veterans that served and the 29 that paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you, Council.
Right. Okay, so that's an explanation of how the money's going to be spent. Any further comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's approved with the understanding that you'll work with the county so that they can give us a report. Okay.
Madam Chair, the next item, the Medlin Schofield update, we'll reserve that for a brief executive session on a legal update.
Okay.
The next item, the Jenkinsville sidewalk project. Madam Chair, this item, just to recap, went to committee. We actually had a committee after a meeting with the hospital board, where the committee initially passed on a recommendation to the County Transportation Commission, or the CTC. The CTC took up that matter. They did not actually have a quorum where they could officially conduct business. They reconvened the following Monday, I think that was 2 weeks ago, and actually forwarded a recommendation, and I'll read you the recommendation from the CTC per the recommendation that came from committee, went to county council approved that, but it reads as follows. On this date, the Fairfield County Transportation Committee has voted to give $25,000 in 2015 and $25,000 in 2016 for the Jenkinsville sidewalk project. This commitment is made with the understanding that if the necessary matching funds to secure the grant are not obtained by the town of Jenkinsville by March the 2nd, 2015, the above commitment is null and void. This commitment will come from SCEOD SCDOT allocated funds. And just to reiterate, this comes from a portion of funds, the CTC funds, are gas tax monies that are appropriated back through the Department of Transportation to the County Transportation Commission. We receive somewhere in the neighborhood over $1 million a year in CTC funds. The county customarily gets approximately 75% of those funds. The CTC, 25% of those funds are to be used for state DOT roads. The CTC funds can be used for, and we primarily use them for, paving of dirt roads. It can be used for resurfacing. It can be used for intersection projects. It can be used for sidewalks. It is totally appropriate for it to be used for all of those, but this money, or the $25,000 that the CTC is referring to, comes out of the 25% portion of the state DOT funds, because the said project is actually on an SCDOT road that is actually in Fairfield County, not a county-maintained road.
Discussion.
There hasn't been a.
Okay, a motion.
I make a motion, Madam Chair, that we move to approve the $25,000 from the county general fund budget over the next 2 budget cycles for a total of $50,000 for the sidewalk project requested by the town of Jenkinsville.
I second, Madam Chair.
Now discussion.
Let me say this. I've heard some conversation from some of the citizens tonight, which seems to be highly personal. This council have no authority whatsoever over the Jenkinsville Water Board or what they do, and coming in and saying things about, you know, people on that board. As you know, Madam Chair, we have no authority over another elected board. There people are in there duly elected, and if you have a problem, you have to get the people who are members of the Jenkinsville Water Board to handle those type of questions. We have literally nothing to do with it. My request that most of that sidewalk goes into an unincorporated area, actually goes into the county. It runs out of the Jenkinsville. Almost the Jenkinsville part has already been done. The request now goes into an unincorporated area to run down to Baltic Circle, I think. And we've already approved that it's going to be a fire station there, so we had to collaborate and make sure that the sidewalk and the driveway and all that kind of coordinates itself. And when that fire station gets there, Monticello and the Dawkins Community SOI rating is going to drop significantly. Mine goes up to a 10 because I'm farther away from it. But more than that, I want the council to know that this is about infrastructure, not so much of personality to stop something from happening. That town will grow over time. And not only with that, we're going to be confronted with folks coming here asking for money for infrastructure on a whole lot of different things. And I hope people don't oppose it, because that's the only way we're going to grow. And that request, when you say that it goes nowhere, it comes from here, there's only 30 people. Well, it's in the Jenkinsville precinct. In the Jenkinsville precinct, we got over 700 registered voters. I guarantee that 50% of those voters are almost in walking distance from where that sidewalk is, and plus the town has expanded in terms of annexation, and going to continue to do that. The next request, you will have hundreds of people that's going to be annexed into that area. So this is not a personality fight to stop growth and development and infrastructure. So I hope that the board has the vision enough to see that we're trying to get a new municipality up and running and getting started to put some infrastructure there for that community. That's my hope, that the council would see that and not get into these fights over things we have absolutely no control over.
Further comments?
Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Robinson.
One of the problems I have on this request is we haven't even started on the 2016 budget discussing it yet. There's no way I can sit here and vote for something in 2016 when we don't even know what the budget's going to be or what other things we have facing us. There are a couple other issues I have with this project. Mr. Marshall is right. It's about 2/10 of a mile that's still left in the town of Jenkinsville. And it's 4/10 of a mile from from their part on up to Baltic Circle, which is make 6/10 of a mile sidewalk. When they went over the recreation plan in our planning meeting, and it shows the fire and EMS station, I sit there and looked last night and took the distances they have on there. It's about 245 feet that goes across in front of that fire station, that the sidewalk would have to be torn back up if it was put in, because that was for driveways, 2 driveways coming in on each side. It was about 20 foot on each side of the building for parking spaces, plus there were sidewalks, and then all the way across in front of the building, it was going to be one big open space, is what the artist rendition's showing. I think you need to think about that before taking this vote.
Madam Chair, if I may just comment.
Mr. Marshall.
You know, in the last 2 years from the VC nuclear power plant, this county has received $52 million that have come out of my community, out of my district. And we're asking for $50,000 for infrastructure for people to be safe and not walking the roads with all the trucks and traffic at the nuclear power plant. And we just sit here and took taxpayers' money and voted $10,000 without any prerequisites of other than the administrator will follow up and get a report. Remember when we done our grants to the churches, we needed tax IDs, we needed everything. People really had a problem with that. And I can understand Mr. Robinson's question, but we need to move ahead in this county and get some infrastructure started, and I would appreciate the rest of the council being able to have that vision and understand that it's grossly unfair that when millions and tens of millions of dollars leave a community, we can't get anything back. I just think that's grossly unfair.
Mr. Smith?
Madam Chair, first, just to make the record clear, I don't agree with the picture that Mr. Marshall just stated. And just again, for the record, we're about to put, again, a fire station in that community. We're about to put a recreation center in that community. So to say that nothing is happening for that community is just not true.
Not what I said.
Okay. Anyway, I can't support this because, as Mr. Robinson said, it concerns me that we're looking at a budget year, 2 budget years in advance that we have not began to discuss yet, and that we got this request in only a month and a half before it was due. Now, when we talk about the $10,000 that Mr. Haslett's group asked for, again, they came in here last year. Before 3 of us were even up here, and there were stipulations put on that. They had to raise a certain amount of money. They did that. They came in, met those goals, and that's why I voted to approve it, because we had already made that commitment. But I can't do it. I can't do it tonight on this. Thank you.
Any other comments? Ms. Kinley?
Mr. Pope, did I not understand you said that the 25,000 would come not out of the general fund, but monies already denoted from the?
No.
What, would you repeat that part then?
Well, Ms. Kinley, it's 2 things. First out, the $50,000 from the CTC, that money is being appropriated out of the 25% of monies that come in the total pie. Councilmember Masaria's motion is, if I understand it correctly, is he is desiring to have the county to match, which the mayor made us aware of. The total amount of money that's needed for the completion of the project is $100,000. The CTC only addressed $50,000 of that and basically told the town that it needed to come up with the 50 whatever way it could. And but Councilmember Masaria's motion is to take $25,000 over the next 2 budget years. So the way I interpret that would be for the budget of 2015-16, there would be a designation of $25,000, and then for the budget year of 2016-17, there would be a designation of $25,000 for the 50,000 additional that's needed. Now, all of this has to be done according to the information that the mayor had provided to us, even though he said initially that he had to have an answer, I think it was March 2nd, or March 2nd or 1st, but he said he could have some additional time. But if you recall, at the CTC meeting, they said that they wanted to cut it off at the March 1st. and if anything went beyond that, it would be null and void. So what's before us is, based upon the motion, is a question about whether or not you want to appropriate $25,000 in the upcoming budget year and $25,000 the next budget year.
Are there no other funds anywhere without dipping into the budget right now? Are there any kind of funds out there?
Well, to be clear, we can always reappropriate dollars. I mean, that's just a priority of whatever council's priorities are. However, based upon this motion, we wouldn't have to, quote unquote, go into this year's budget because it's not being asked out of this year's budget. The budget ceases or closes on June 30, 2015 for this fiscal year. What's being asked here is for the commitment. However, the funds don't have to be appropriated until after we adopt our budget, our upcoming budget for the upcoming fiscal year. So you wouldn't have to, per this motion, you wouldn't have to, quote unquote, go into the general fund to do anything. You would just have to make a pledge, if you will, that you're pledging $25,000 for the first half of the commitment.
Mr. Robinson?
But that would be out of the general fund of the 2015, 2016
That is correct.
budget.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And 2016, 2017.
2016, 17, right. Right.
I'll go to Madam Chair. My study and calculation since the inception of the nuclear power plant and the money that's come to Fairfield County, rather than over $1 billion have left that community, $1 billion. And still we don't have appropriate water systems, we don't have sidewalks, we don't have adequate fire stations, and in all these years we've been asking for some kind of infrastructure to happen. Over $1 billion have left there, and I think this council, I think it's just unconscionable to deny that community the right to have some infrastructure in their community.
Well, let me just say, of the $1 billion plus that they've sent, the school district gets over 60% of that, and we get the rest of it, and it goes into the pot to pay everything we schedule, just like my home taxes and car taxes go into the pot. So it's not just money that we can spend, it's money that we depend upon to meet the budget every year. So, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, the area around Winsboro for many years has only been the one that put money in the coffers for the county. So, they could say the same thing. So we have to look at the budget as a whole, not just for a district. That's one of the worst things that's ever happened to us, in my opinion, is the districts. We still need to look at the county as a whole and just work within the frame that we have of monies that come in from ad valorem taxes. So, any further comments? Motion on the floor is to grant $25,000 out of the 2015-16 budget and $25,000 out of the 2016-17 budget to go toward the sidewalk project in Jenkinsville. All in favor?
Aye.
All oppose?
Nay.
Nay, whichever one you want. You said same
I want
sign.
nay if you oppose.
I thought you said same sign, my bad.
Yeah, we are. We're going to call for a show of hands. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Show your hand. All opposed, say nay. Raise your hand. Okay, so 4. Okay. The money is granted to come out of the budget and be part of the process.
Very much, council.
Okay. Next, there's no new business. County Administrator's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, since we didn't renumber it, I just take the item that we added on the under my report and we apologize we didn't get a chance to speak to you before you came in from Sheriff Young's event. But the school district and our surrounding school districts, already we're getting weather reports. I know the school districts in Richland, they're delaying 2 hours. Our school district is delaying 2 hours. So therefore, administration is recommending that we delay opening of county offices by 2 hours. Those are our administrative offices. Of course, our central personnel, they are still open and working, but that's going to be our call unless the council has some problem with that, but we'll be delaying.
Is that for tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, just on that subject, just briefly, there was a comment that was made last council meeting about one of the services that were provided, and I assume that, you know, someone was looking at the check register to see where we had a Sirius satellite radio service, and it was kind of stated that this was in some county employee's vehicle, something they were riding around listening to Sirius radio. Well, that's not the case. The case is in our one of our emergency management offices, of course, where we get the weather service. That's what that service is used for, and we do not have any satellite radios in any of our county vehicles. So I just wanted to, I just think when certain things are said publicly, I think the public should know that, because I mean that would be a problem to me, because when that was mentioned, I was like, I hope we don't have anything. But we do not have that, and of course, that service came into play today because we look at weather reports, what the National Weather Service is putting out, as well as surrounding entities. So we'll have a 2-hour delay. That Mr. Anderson will place that on our emergency line. All county employees call in to get that information. That's readily available. Employees know to get that so they can be informed and then adjust their schedules accordingly.
Okay, a comment the last 2 times we've had to make a call had to do with, well, we've always done what the school system does. As you know, a week or so ago, we didn't do what the school system did. They were down all day, I believe, and we just did a 2-hour delay. And those calls are being made to the best of the ability for us to do that, to keep the offices available and open. It was revised, and we looked at it again like 4 a.m. and made the final call at 7. But so that doesn't happen again, and they said, oh, we stayed out because of the schools. A notice has been sent to all department heads as well as all agencies that we serve that follow us. So just send that word out as well. All right, next.
Madam Chair, the next several items that we have, these are items that are coming forward from the Administration Finance Committee. The first item is letter A. This was a request of action regarding the purchase of a fire truck pumper. The committee recommended unanimously to move forward on the bid information that we had received. These are budgeted dollars for a fire pumper in the amount of $303,787. This was recommended unanimously by the A&F committee. We would recommend to council favorable approval.
And like you said, that is in the budget this year. Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next.
Madam Chair, the next item is regarding request of action on courthouse switches. We have had, and we are still going through the process of getting our new telephone system and other systems up and operational. This actually is an item that is recommended by our Information Technologies Department in the amount of $19,833.20. This also comes from existing budgeted funds. This is something that we need to upgrade. We've had some significant problems with the telephony system over at the courthouse, and hopefully this will in part solve some of those issues that we have. The switches that you have a certain shelf life on them, and they're up for the time for replacement. The committee had recommended unanimously to approve this recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, one thing that we were told in the committee is, even though it's in this budget year, they had tried to push it out into next budget year, and it failed. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Next.
The next letter C, request of action. This is a communications tower stabilization request. This is to secure the main tower at an anchor point in question to alleviate safety concerns, as well as shore up the tower to complete the original plan for replacing existing antennas and cables that are far past their life expectancy. This request that was brought to us, actually there were two options on this. And this is one thing that I wanted to mention to the full council, just to make you aware. We had an option of full replacement of everything, which was in the neighborhood of $275,000, or an option of actually just replacing the cabling, shoring it up, doing those things to get some more extended life out of what we have. And that is what the what administration is recommending, and that is going to cost us $15,000. However, based upon the life of everything, this is going to have to be something that we place in our long-term capital plans, because eventually it's something that we're going to have to replace in order to have coverage throughout the county. The committee have recommended favorably on the second option on shoring up what we have in the amount of $15,000.
We were also told in committee in the presentation that should this tower fail, we have no service to the entire county for EMS or anything. Motion?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Next.
Madam Chair and Council, the next item is a purchase of in our EMS department of a
This one.
D.
D.
The transit vehicle.
Transit vehicle.
throw that one away. Go back and get it here. Do you have updates? Go ahead. Mr. Anderson will take that out. Missing that sheet somewhere.
Council and citizens, this is to replace two of our transit vehicles that is past their useful life. Both of those vehicles have well over 200,000 miles, and they are being costly to repair, and we have that budgeted in our budget. And that will be $62,000.
And that was actually also approved unanimously, or recommended unanimously by the A&M
And in the budget.
and in the budget. Yes, ma'am.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, when you said transit vehicle purchase, is that the same as the transit vehicle that's from the transportation department?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We purchase their vehicles or federal government? I thought the federal government gave them grants.
We do some of the capital stuff again, but we're replacing those. And if you recall, Mr. Tucker actually informed the council that we were way past the useful life, and actually it's causing a whole lot of repairs that we're having. That's actually driving up our operational costs. If you recall that discussion with him.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next.
Now, I'm back on the right one here. The next one is a request of action, an EMS light duty rescue truck purchase. This, we also, EMS budgeted $75,000 for the new vehicle, but we also received $11,000 in grant monies for the vehicle. And we have the quotes that have gone through our procurement department to get the best pricing on this particular item, and the committee recommended unanimously favorable approval to the request.
Discussion? Or motion? Okay, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Madam Chair, letter F, actually an EMS, an ambulance laptop purchases. These laptops will be used to generate electronic patient care reports and allow employees to clock in and out of work. They will also allow paramedics to view current standing orders and patient care procedures. The wireless routers will be used to connect the laptops to an internet connection to be able to send those patient care reports and 12 lead EKGs to receiving facilities. I can tell you, especially with the regional hospitals that we commute to, this is critically and vitally important to pass on that information, especially if someone is in cardiac arrest. So actually when the patient arrives, that they're stabilized, they have the information, they're not wasting any time. These were also budgeted dollars that we had. We had to do some shifting around on several of the bids. We had to bid this several times, as we talked about in the committee. But we would certainly recommend favorable approval to go ahead and actually purchase these.
Motion?
So moved.
Second? Okay, discussion.
Madam Chair.
Smith?
Certainly, nobody's going to be, I don't think, in opposition to this, but if you could, Mr. Pope, I'm not a member of that committee and wasn't able to make that meeting. We purchased laptops, I think, in the area of $50,000 the previous council did not too long ago. Do we know what difference there is in those?
This is the same one.
Oh, it's the same one?
Same
Okay,
one.
okay.
Not any different, it's the same request. Actually, the first time this came up, what you could be, remember we were talking about this, actually came up in the budget work sessions. When Mr. Tanner had came, but we actually had to go through the bidding process several times because we had only like one vendor, and so we had to actually bid it several times.
Okay, and I think that's the reason, the bid process.
Just getting there. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Motion carried. G.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Council. Even though this hadn't been a brief subject, but I do want to give a brief report for the sake of time regarding Drawdy Park, and really two components of my report. The first is regarding the Drawdy Park retaining wall. The wall actually, and the failure of the wall, actually, I guess more appropriately, has been reconstructed and completed by S2 Engineering at a full cost to them. This particular council voted to authorize administration to hire a third-party consulting firm to look at the structural integrity of the wall to determine why there was a failure, and actually, based upon those items, to have the wall reconstructed according to engineered plans. We actually, through a procurement process, brought on board Goodwin Mills and Kaywood. They were the third-party inspectors. They brought on a structural engineer, also the third-party inspectors. They actually made sure that, number one, that there were new engineered drawed plans that they reviewed to make sure everything was in those. However, we had to keep that information, the custody of that, if you will, with S2. The county couldn't accept that because of any potential litigation or anything like that. You ever don't want to transfer that type of situation. So Chow & Associates engineering firm out of Columbia was retained by S2 Engineers, and so that's who actually paid for all of the architectural drawings and what have you. Those were reviewed and signed off by our independent folks, and that's how the construction or the redevelopment of the wall transpired. So that has been completed. Areas around the wall itself, S2's responsibility were at the wall, around the drainage areas. The county itself, we have responsibility, and we're doing actually various additional drainage items out at the park to actually carry the water from the wall to the appropriate areas and the drainage ditches and whatnot. And so we're doing, the county is actually doing lots of things out there with that. We actually also have the drawings, the construction pictures, the inspection reports, all of that that information. Also, we have, and I mentioned this at the retreat, and I believe I mentioned some of it briefly as well at the last council meeting, internally, staff and working with Mr. Anderson and actually Ms. Schaefer, our recreation director, already internally for us, we have plans of drainage improvements. If when you're headed down, if you, of course all of you know this, but when you're headed down into the park, when the county actually took the park over from the association, there were existing drainage issues with the park, but those are some of the things that we will be improving internally. There is actually building demolition that will occur. One of the main buildings in the middle of the park, that is going to be demolished. Also, we're having an electrical relocation and general maintenance and painting of the park, which is actually a part of our internal planning, which is actually with our construction and maintenance staff, along with some of the maintenance people with Parks and Recreation. The second part of this was also a request, a motion initially made by Councilmember David Brown, who asked that other buildings that S2 had some involvement in, that those buildings be inspected for any potential problems. And just to briefly go through some of those, S2 actually did really generally two types of things for the county. There were some buildings that they built and designed, and then there were other buildings that they actually just provided renovation on. As an example, the Fairfield Commerce Center, they did work there. There was an initial building plan that was underway with that building went from, I think, basically what it was like a pole building, a pole barn, to what we have out of Commerce Center now. They did the renovations and things there. There were just minor maintenance type things that were outlined to us. And I would also kind of note that all of the maintenance issues, and they pointed out maintenance issues, Mr. Davis had gotten with the maintenance staff, and all of those things have been approved as well. The Fairfield County Coroner's Building, this was one that they actually built and designed. The item that was pointed out there was a guttering issue and a drainage issue. That has been completed. There was around one of the windows was an inadequate for moisture penetration left on the front door. That was corrected. The Fairfield County Probation Building, that was another one that they had built. There was actually some drainage issues around a metal panel. That was corrected. The Fairfield County Public Works Building was also a building that they built and designed. There was a part on one of the, actually when you're walking in the door, it was a moisture area, which something, of course, our staff could handle, which has actually been corrected. The Fairfield County Voter Registration Building. This building was an existing building whose interior was modified for its current use. There are no anticipated structural issues with the structure. The Hahn Building, they did renovation internally there. This is an existing industrial building that was modified to house county emergency services and maintenance functions. These modifications were performed by S2 Engineering and are not structural in nature, therefore no inspection was needed on the structural part of that. So from a staff perspective, we followed the directive of the council to number one, and of course it took some time and longer certainly than what the staff desired, but on the retaining wall, and as I said before, we have the engineered drawings from Chow and Associates, all inspection reports, all of that information, and also the sign-off documents on the other buildings that were looked at. Any questions from council? Madam Chair, the last item that I have is letter H. This is the motion period process. If you can recall, this council actually made several amendments to our bylaws One of the suggestions out of our discussions was the recommendation for an addition of a motion period process that you will find on all of our upcoming agendas. The purpose of this is to allow the council to receive information either from a council member regarding a matter or something that they desire to receive from the public. However, as that issue comes in, the council will have to vote to say that it wants to receive and have some further discussion on that matter. And if you do that, then the chair will, just like with any initiative, the chair will then actually assign that matter to a committee and it'll go through our committee process. So now this is actually a part of our regular standing meeting agenda and a way that we can facilitate things that either come internally from you or from some external matter that comes in. But, that way the full council will receive it and you'll have an opportunity of whether or not you want staff to invest research time or what have you on one of those items. Thank you.
Any comments for the administrator? Okay, clerk? Okay. All right, second, yes.
Question for Ms. Brown. Where are we on the schedule for intergovernmental?
School district is next in turn, and I've communicated with them, and the public relations director will be speaking with the superintendent, and they will give us a date certain. Thank you.
All right, second public comment?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
interrupt that. Just to piggyback on one thing, because that probably whenever we have that meeting, it will come up. If you recall, one of the items that we went over at the retreat was our strategic plan. From the last intergovernmental meeting that we had, there was a desire for us to collaborate and have additional discussions. Once we finalize what group we'll be working with on the strategic plan, we will then be able to set up all of those meetings with county agencies, entities, the schools, the hospital, the town, the municipalities, special purpose districts. Also, there will be a public and citizens component to that in receiving all of that information. So I know that that was actually one of the main issues that the school district wanted to have more conversation with us. So that will be covered in our process once that's adopted, once it's considered and adopted by the council.
Madam Chair, in the event that the months roll by without having gotten confirmation from one of the other entities, then certainly the county council is on schedule for June.
Okay. June.
Those who have signed to speak for public comment number 2, beginning with Mr. Alan Gant, fear of transparency.
Good evening. My name's Alan Gant. I'm from District 3. I'm a citizen in District 3. I've only attended a handful of meetings in the past, but the events of last week at this council chamber kind of changed that for me. I've chosen to make it a mission for myself to archive as many past and present and future council meetings. I'm going to list them up on YouTube. They'll be hosted at a website called DecideForU.com. Currently, we're putting information up about all the candidates, but that's transitioning to have an archive for all the council meetings that are available on the internet and available through other sources. That being said, I want to personally thank the council for the warm greeting that my son-in-law received from y'all this Saturday morning at the retreat in Columbia. He was there on my behalf, had no clue why he was sent. I only asked him to go and record the meeting until my daughter could come and relieve him. He's from Germany. He has no clue what the Freedom of Information Act means or even what it stands for. I would have been there personally had it not been for a funeral. I find it interesting that after giving Ms. Brown a courtesy call on Friday to make sure the meeting was open to the public and that the room was set up to allow us room to record, my son-in-law endured a Q&A session with Mr. Marcharia, while the council members, the other council members, just looked on. I'm really surprised with Mr. Billy Smith. Mr. Billy Smith, the former pit bull for the truth, sat silent. Not a word in defense for the transparency that was the cornerstone of his campaign. Not a word about the rights afforded to anybody through the FOIA, through FOIA. Not a word from any of the newly elected leaders asking or demanding for the truth and transparency from this council. Only Mr. Pope knew the requirements for FOIA. So I brought with me a few copies. I'm going to pass them around. Y'all going to have them. I brought with me a copy of the Freedom of Information Act. It's 30-4-94C as a handout for all the council members. After reviewing this tape, it's obvious that none of the council members knew that anyone from anywhere can record any public meeting of elected officials that is not a closed meeting. It doesn't matter if they are political foes or a schoolgirl from Switzerland. These meetings are open to all, and I plan to post them and make them available to all Fairfield County citizens. Thank you.
Mr. Walter Larry Stewart, working together.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and honorable members of the County Council and citizens of Fairfield County. I will begin my presentation with this thought. We are a government of the people with representatives elected by the people who are elected to serve the people. As a representative of the people, we are required to be respectful to those who we are elected to serve. We must be honest, humble, and most of all, not arrogant and self-serving. We are elected to serve all the citizens of Fairfield County, black and white, rich and poor, old and young, from Lake Wateree to the Broad River. When we become arrogant and disrespectful to any of our citizens, then we become unqualified to hold that office. When our actions create divisiveness, inflame racism, and degrade any citizen, it becomes time for change. The words spoken in this chamber the past 6 months are troublesome. They are not reflective of the citizens of Fairfield County. We, the citizens of Fairfield County, are better than this. It is time to come together and work together to make Fairfield County a better place to live and raise our families. We are under a microscope by companies looking to set up businesses in Fairfield County. My question to all of you: if you were a top executive in a company and observed the actions in this chamber, would you relocate your family to Fairfield County? When we allow our political dirty tricks group to mail flyers supposedly from hate groups to selected members of the community to create divisiveness, we stoop to the same level of those hate groups. As for me, no position, no piece of silver, no office is worth me compromising my basic values that my family used to raise me. I will not stoop to that level. For the record, I am not a Tea Party member, and I am not a member of Saving Fairfield. Madam Chairman, I have 2 recommendations to improve council meetings. Near the end of the last segment of the meeting, you preface it with a phrase similar to this: we will discuss items for the good of Fairfield County. When a discussion strays from that guidelines, I'm requesting that they be stopped. The second, the citizens are limited to 3-minute presentations. This rule should be applied to county council members also. I am requesting these things as a citizen of Fairfield County for 66 years. Thank you, Madam Chairman, and the citizens for allowing me to make this presentation.
Ms. Bertha Gomez. Ms. further goings, a good response to racism.
Good evening, and thank you once again for allowing me to stand before you. And this is, see what you don't see. I pray that one day we will be judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Because man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. The heart above all things is most deceitful. Out of the heart flows the issues of life. Those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile the man. Evil thoughts, murderers, adulterers, theft, false witness. I try to see in others what God is looking for in me. Love, peace, kindness, gentleness, justice, long-suffering, meekness, humility, service to others, and commitment to Him. To do that, I purpose in my heart to see not what color you are, but me treating you the way I want you to treat me. So I see what you don't see. You and me, breaking down walls and barriers of racism, destroying unforgiveness, bitterness, selfishness, hate, malice, and anger. I see what you don't see. You and me making a difference together, so others can see the same God that made you, made me. And maybe now when you look at others, you will see what you don't see. Their hurt, pain, disappointment, sorrow, sickness, ups and downs and struggles in this life. Their dreams, achievements, hope, joy, laughter, and victory. And you will, if you try to see what you don't see, you will find there is no difference in you, others, or me. Thank you.
Mr. D. Melton, water for new recreation center.
Hello, I'm D. Melton. I'm here, District 4, and the new recreation center coming in is a wonderful thing for Fairfield County, not Jenkinsville by itself, but also for Fairfield County. We need to bring it in. This is a good thing to have. My concern is it's moving forward at a pretty rapid pace, but we do not know if this project has availability of water. I've been told there's not water for commercial developments in that area. I know it's not the truth of it, but Ms. Marshall Rhea, it's your district out there, and Rec Center is great. But I'm coming to the county, to the council here to ask, how much water does this community center need? Where will the water come from? How will the water be obtained? And I've been told many times there is no water availability there for commercial developments. So these questions need to be answered and answered quickly in order for this project to move forward. And I would like to hear from the council when I get a chance.
Mr. Moses Bell, Fire Service.
Again, thank council for allowing me to speak. As I talked about the fire service a few minutes ago, one of the things I do want to point out again, that the Southeastern Volunteer Fire Department have mold and mildew on the walls. It's hazardous. I mean, Mr. Anderson came down there, he looked at it. You got holes in the ceiling. Now, in advantaged communities, those kind of problems don't exist. So again, we asking county council to take a look at it and look at trying to purchase build a new fire station, fire department. It has been neglected for over 20-some years. Again, and on top of that, we have a truck that we got from EMS, okay, that they had discarded. Now we using that truck to store our ab packs and those kinds of things on it. Okay, when you get ready to look at the Southeastern Volunteer Fire Department, it's just being neglected for trucks and for building maintenance. Okay, and I think we can do better than that. So some people, when I was talking to some of the council members, one of the questions I did get is have I told Tony? Okay, I'm not here to talk bad about Tony, and the question should have been asked is, why didn't Tony see this for himself? That should be the question, not whether I've told Tony or not. Again, I think it's almost a shame to have a fire department within the area. Now, we have a 7 fire rating down there in that area, and we don't even have water. Okay, so we train, okay, we spend time in the community, and again, we need to do something about that fire station. Okay, and I'm asking for county council support in doing so. Thank you.
Ms. Beth Jenkins, this is the last person to sign Code of Conduct and follow up.
Beth Jenkins, District 2. I wanted to address that. The chairman, I pulled the bylaws, and in the bylaws on page 2 of 19.5, section C, it says the chair shall determine whether a speaker has gone beyond reasonable standards of courtesy in their remarks and to entertain and rule on objections from other members on this ground. I think that what happened last week was outrageous. Citizens are gavelled. I think that you should also use your authority to gavel other members that are out of line. I think that respect goes both ways, and I think for someone to go on a rant is unacceptable. Also in the bylaws, council attendance provision, it's on page 6 of 19, section 8. It says that the clerk of the council, prior to beginning of a meeting, is to notify the council and the public of the reason for an absence. This is not being done and has not been done since I've been attending the meetings. And so I think if we're going to go by the rules, that this should apply, and I would ask that the clerk do that. Council rules for meetings. Section 9, also on page 6 of 19, it says the chairperson shall preserve order. If any member violates the rules or order as recognized by the council, the chair shall call him or her to order. I beg of you that because something has been happening for 15 years, it can change. It needs to stop. We have new faces, we have great new people, looking forward to other new people, and I beg you to call this chamber to order. Don't allow rants. Don't allow people, when the citizens get up here, we talk about FOIA, things that can be verified, not things that are just pulled out of thin air. And I ask that you hold council to the same standards, things that can be verified, things that are verifiable. I understand that sometimes there's misunderstanding and the way things are taken, but they can be clarified. But just to pull things out of the air is not acceptable, and the citizens deserve respect on that. And once again, I beg of you to at least put something in your bylaws and redo them to bring this council to order, because the people are trying, and I do believe that we have come a long way in communication and respect, and we would like the same in return. Thank you.
Okay, we're down to county council time, and, oh, yes, sir, Mr. Pope.
Just one item, because it's come up several times, and actually feel comfortable mentioning it now. You received the recreational update. In regards to the proposed buildings that had been approved in the plan thus far for the buildings, none of the buildings, as our consultants shared with the council at our retreat, require assembly code regulations, meaning the buildings do not have to be sprinkled. There is, under the International Building Code, a certain capacity in buildings that require whether or not those buildings have to be sprinkled, therefore requiring a sprinkle system that generally requires you to be on some type of a water system, or where you have some type of reservoir where you can supply that water. What has been told to us thus far in the 4 or the 3 buildings that we have, similar to the one that's proposed to go in the Jenkinsville area, it would use septic tank and well for the potable drinking water. So that is actually what's actually in the plans as they exist right now. If it had been a situation where the building had similar requirements, we would have been in an entirely different ballgame, and especially it would have been a lot more cost. So as what our consultants have told us thus far, that's how that would be addressed. Thank you.
All right. For county council time, I have asked Mr. Smith to keep us abreast of anything that's going on in the legislature. And without even asking, he gave us an update on the government fund last week, our last meeting. Do you have anything to discuss tonight with us?
There's not much that's different this week, Madam Chair, that came out in the report this past Friday. But I will say there's a little bit of confusion, I think, on the new roads plan that has been put forward in the General Assembly, and legislators are telling folks that the new plan will make it optional to counties to take over the roads or not take over the roads. But that's there's a little, in my opinion, bit of smoke and mirrors there. That actually is going to be left up to the CTC to decide, who is appointed by the legislative delegation, and who has complete autonomy and control of themselves. So we have no control over, in that case, whether those roads will come to the county or not. And I just wanted to point that out about that bill.
Mr.
And
Robinson?
I believe that CTC changes in July 1st, completely different than it is now.
That's what we heard at the winter meeting last week. It's what you've reported, and with CTC it's going to be a completely different makeup than we know it today, which again we have no input in it whatsoever. But that's going to be an interesting thing, and we continue to try to get the funding, government funding, so that we can already meet the unfunded mandates. And questions were asked at that meeting: are you going to give us the equipment, or just so many things that we don't have that wherein you can do the work of road paving. So thank you. Does anyone else have a comment tonight?
Yes, Madam Chair. Several weeks ago, a month or so ago, I think I came to the council and mentioned that the Men in Black and White, which is a group of men of all colors, wanted to work with the youth in this county to take some of the load and pressure off the schools. The schools can't be the school teacher, the counselor, the preacher, and everything else. So the community need to get more involved and be role models, and particularly with our young youth, young men, to get involved with that. And they have a motto that they have: it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. I believe that. So, and I had asked council whether or not they wanted a table, and I had asked for a proclamation for Congressman Clyburn, who's going to be one of the keynote speakers, and I didn't get a response back from that. So I would like to ask council tonight, since it's next week, that they, by either consensus or a vote, that we give the congressman a proclamation when he comes on the 28th.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Consensus, yeah, I'll make a motion that we do that. Council do that.
I second it, Madam Chair.
Discussion? All in favor of us having a proclamation for Representative Clyburn coming into our county, and knowing that he does lots of things for us even though he doesn't represent our district. Do I have a vote for yes?
Aye.
Oppose? Madam Clerk, would you please prepare one for presentation to him? All right.
Thank the council for that vote.
All right.
I'm sorry you wasn't able to get a table or commit to coming, but the delegation has a number of churches. You might have just as many people there as you had for the sheriff. I hope, I wish, but it looks like you're going to have a really nice crowd that's going to be there.
Okay. All right. Anyone further? Mr. Smith?
Just to provide a little bit more information about something that happened at the planning session we had over the weekend. There was something that I felt was an unfortunate event that happened there. It was a Q&A with a young gentleman who came in with a camera. I was uncomfortable with that back and forth, and actually at one point I turned around to the young man and said, you don't have to answer any questions that you're asked in the spirit of the FOIA, and I think that will show on the videotape as well. But just wanted to make that clear. There is nothing that happened at that meeting that is outside of this FOIA statute, and if there had been, I would have been the first one to say something about it. But again, I did turn around and tell that gentleman when he's being questioned that he didn't have to answer any questions, so I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Madam Chair, since my name was mentioned, when I looked around and we were being taped, I did ask the question of our administrator, and I knew that publicly they could do it. But my question was, who is it? Who's doing it? Is there a name? Do they have a card? And the information I got, I don't have to tell you nothing. I come here and tape it, use it for political purposes, and don't have to reveal nothing. I felt very uncomfortable with that. And not that you couldn't do it. I'd like to know, well, who? Do you have a card or name? And that's what was the question that I asked. And so, since it was legal, I allowed it. I mean, I couldn't allow it. I mean, it was legal under the FOIA, and I dropped it at that point.
Okay, well, just know that the clerk had called me about it, and I said it's legal. We will allow him to be in there without any problem. And so he knew that when he walked in, that he had the approval of council, even though he didn't need it. We knew he was coming, or at least I knew. It had happened late Friday afternoon. It was not a time to really talk to them until we sat down and started talking about it Saturday afternoon, if that's the way everyone else saw that.
And Madam Chair, if I may, I also just want to add to that, because there was a little bit of negativity, I think, levied against me. It's not my job, and I can't cry wolf anytime a council member says something that I don't agree with. Council members have the ability to say whatever they want as long as they're within order. And questions, although I again will say I thought were unfortunate, and they didn't have to be answered, and that's just how the FOIA works. It wasn't my job to cry wolf just because somebody asked a question I didn't agree with. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I do want to say this very, very much, Madam Chair. As council members, no one council member up here has any more authority than any other council member, including you to be the chair. We all have equal powers unless we give you the authority as a quorum to do what the council want to do. And each council member has a right up here to speak their mind and say what they want to. And I don't recall getting up saying the negative kind of hatred, personalized stuff that I hear in here, or calling people names out and what kind of crooked stuff that they do. I don't think council sit up here and say stuff like that. And we shouldn't even allow that, and we didn't personalize it. But I would say this, there's so much hatred going on in this county, if not in this state and whatnot. And I'll refer back to the young Muslims that was shot and killed, talk about the parking lot. I don't believe it was the parking lot, nobody else. And I say that because, and we can talk about race and all you want, you don't want to hear it, that's up to you. But a lot of people assume that I'm Muslim because I'm African name, and I dress in the African attire. I meet white folks who looked at me, stared me down, spit on the ground right in my face and stared me down. I've never had an African American person do that. I go in the store and get stuff, people drop this stuff on the counter and look at me kind of mean. I don't know if one of these clowns going to shoot me when they come up and do that, spit on the ground and stare me down, or what they going to do. Now, is that race? I don't know what it is, but it's kind of intimidating, and I watch my back. So it's so much hatred going in this, too much hatred going in this county. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Do any other council members have any comments to make? If not, do I have a motion to go into executive session to, hold on a second.